Hey, everybody, and welcome to Your Next. I'm your host, Jerome, and we have traveled across the world. I've got Dr. Michael Filosi with me today. Good day, mate.
How you going, Jerome? You nailed that. That's very good. So yeah, I hear you've been practicing. So right off the top, you got the get A right. So yeah, well done.
So, you're in Australia?
I am Adelaide, Australia. So for those listening, yeah, that's where the accent is from. So yeah, South Australia specifically, that's the state. So yeah, I'm in Adelaide, and it's sort of I think a population of 1.7 million people in Australia, down under. That's right. All the throw another shrimp on the barbie, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's where I'm from.
I love it, man. So, the world is such a small place because of the internet,
It is
right? We got to
100%.
connect on LinkedIn. And
Hmm.
when I started reading your story, I couldn't believe it, right? So, as always, people who come on the show, I start out with, so you had an exit.
I did, man. And I love that intro, by the way. That's a cool way to get things kicked off. So you're right. I did have an exit. So I'm a dentist by profession. 10 years ago, I bought a very rundown practice, which literally had possums in the walls that nobody thought had a future. Everyone thought I was crazy buying it. 10 years later, last year, I sold it. And I sold it as the biggest dental practice in Adelaide, in my city of Adelaide. So I went from worst to first. And in that time, obviously, a fair bit happens, right? So, but I was off the tools by the end. I was just focusing on went from being a dentist to being the CEO of the organization and running the organization. And yeah, last year I sold to private equity. That's 11 months ago. So yeah, I exited last year.
So, what gave you the courage? Because everybody tells you you're crazy. What gave you the courage
Yeah.
to make the purchase? Because, I mean, I think you probably had to risk everything to do that deal.
Yeah, look, it's interesting, man. Like my approach to risk is right. Like I'm like a boa constrictor, so like that's my spirit animal. So like I squeeze the risk out of something, and then I'll go and do it. So I'm not a risk taker, but I thought I could do it. Like I think about it in terms of right. Like I look at trapeze artists, and that to me looks risky. I'm like they're up there, it's high, but they've trained all day for it. They've got their partner who they're doing it with. It's not just some random there. They've got a net, so what looks risky to me is safe to them. And it's the same thing with this. I could see how it could work. I didn't realize it would quite get to the size that we did, but I was really confident, that I knew what it needed to be done. It had really sound bones. It was a busy practice. It needed some youthful energy, I guess. So I think that other people kind of, they didn't see what it could become. They just saw the superficial elements of it and thought that looks a bit run down without realizing the bones of it were really good. There was a fair bit to work with. You just needed a bit of money thrown at it, I guess, to bring it up to speed. And then everyone else jumps on board.
Wow. So, were there specific risks that you were able to get out of the business so that you wouldn't be in a position where, you actually risked everything?
Yeah, look, I think I didn't have to risk because it was run down. The buying cost wasn't huge, right? So I didn't have to, bet an enormous amount on it. The price to buy into the practice was not huge because I just wasn't getting much, right? But the price of like doing it up was enormous, right? But then I got to see the benefits of that. So the actual buying price was okay, but then it was like obviously, every time we ended up buying next door and turning that into a car park and doing two big renovations and things. So they were all enormous costs, but we had proof of concept, right? Like it was working, and we are busy. And so we're making money, most months. So I could see it working, and you just kind of keep going down that pathway and you go, well, okay, we'll do another two dental chairs. We went from two dental chairs initially to 10 when I sold. So we went two, we went in increments of two to two, four to six, six to eight, and then eight to 10. And that was when I sold.
Wow. And you weren't in a chair or on a chair anymore
No.
at that point
So a
either.
couple of years from the end, I got off the tools completely and I was just managing the business. So overseeing the business, mentoring staff, mentoring the dentists, all those sorts of things. So, I was no longer a wet fingered dentist, as the saying goes. I'd completely transitioned to being a true business owner. So I'd left the dental part of it aside. I was still registered, still insured, all those things, but I didn't have a list of patients. I didn't come into work and then be sitting in the surgery. I was across the hallway in my office looking at spreadsheets.
Most dentists and doctors aren't able to do that.
Yeah.
They don't get that training when they're going through school. How
Well,
did you make that transition?
Totally. And you bang on. Like I think a lot of professionals, dentists, doctors, lawyers, they all, they want to stick to the technical aspect of it. So for me, uh, I was a serviceable dentist, but there were people who could do it better than what I could from a technical aspect. Whereas I realized I wasn't going to be the best dentist in my city, but I thought I could have a really red hot crack at having the best dental practice. And the penny dropped for me of like, there's people who've got better hands than me. I'm like, I'm just not going to get past a certain stage. Whereas I reckon I can have a crack at being the best business owner. So for those watching on the video, like I'm 6'6", I'm a big guy, but I read my height in business books. So those books behind you, you can see they're all business and leadership books. And I was just intent on getting better at this thing called business. So you don't learn anything about business at dental school, right? Or law school or anything else. You got to upskill yourself, And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this thing called business, I'd better get better at it. If I'm going to get good at it, I've got to, it's like any skill, you've got to learn it. So I committed to getting better, committed to learning, read 100 odd books and podcasts and things and just started applying it and iterating fast. And, what works, if you touch a hot pan, you don't do it again. And if something works, you keep doing it basically. So I enjoyed that challenge more than I did the mechanical challenge with patience and teeth.
How did you know you had something? Like there's
Yeah.
an initial jump in, and then there's the
Yeah.
delusion, right? But then
Yeah.
there's that moment where you're like, we got it.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, I don't mean to say, like, it's going to sound, there were heaps of challenges, right? So for anyone listening, if you're thinking, oh, look, this guy just got, kissed on the bum and everything went perfectly, that's not it. But I always felt like we were winning, right? And I think, your success leaves clues and, patience, what I was trying to do, it was resonating with them. You could see that we were growing as a practice and we're getting busier and busier and busier. So the whole thing felt like winning. Like I was enjoying it until I wasn't, but I was enjoying it the whole way along there. And it was really nourishing my soul to see this thing grow and give it your heart and soul and grow into it. But, I think that, it came from a low base and what I was trying to do was resonating with people. So it felt easy in the sense of like, I knew I was on the right track, right? I was like, this thing seems to be working. I'm getting the feedback and people are booking back in. So, thankfully there wasn't a long period where I was crapping myself or not sure what to do. It was like I was getting feedback and going, this is working. People seem to like me. People seem to like how I want to do this, which is the reason I bought a practice. I was like, I've got a vision for how it could work. I need to live and die by my own sword. I need to find out if that resonates. And it did. And, it kept growing and growing. And you think, well, I'm going to keep doubling down on that and keep investing in that and keep growing it. And so that's kind of, that's how I went about it, I guess. Just sort of follow your nose a bit and follow curious threads. And if it works, keep doing it. And I'm a very, very hard worker. Like I like hard work. So what, I was all in, all my chips were on the table and I just did the very best I could.
Did you, well, I think a lot of people working for others were like, oh man, we could do it this way. It would be so much better. Um, and it sounds like that was a bit of what you thought. You had a vision on what it could be. What
Yeah.
was different about your vision than what you saw in the traditional practice?
Totally. So it's a really good question. And you're right. I did kind of think, look, I want to give this a crack on my own. I think I've got a vision for how it could work. So my view is there's a lot of dental business coaches that they want to try and sell patients stuff, like it's about a lot of sales and it's a lot of that sort of thing. Whereas my view is people are clever. They can tell if you care and they can tell if you don't. So just do the right thing by them and they will come back. Don't try and hit them up for stuff they don't need. Small fish are sweet. Do the right thing. Do the work that needs doing, but build the trust and they will tell their friends, leave nice online reviews and things like that. So I kind of did the exact opposite of what all the dental business coaches tell you to do, So when others zigged, I zagged and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do all those things and all those things you're supposed to do. I'm doing the opposite. And I think, people buy from people and, we were very authentic. When other dental websites, I noticed, they all say, Dr. Michael Filosi has got a degree in dentistry. Well, of course I do. I'm a dentist. Like, you don't need to say that. Like, it's kind of like stating the obvious, right? So even things like online, we switched all our bios. I was like, let's make them interesting. Everyone knows we know teeth, right? Like, we know that. Let's talk about ourselves because some of those things we started to do and made that more interesting. And it resonated with people. Like I had a patient come and see me because on there I said that that my ideal weekend is reading the newspapers and eating my wife's homemade muesli. And it was a doctor patient. He's like, that's really cool. Like, I get a sense of who you are about it rather than just the interest in teeth. So we still had that stuff too. And we took what we did very, very seriously. But I think that point of differentiation of not trying to, of course we're dentists and we're clever and we've got the degrees and things, but showing people who we were, that seemed to resonate, and that authenticity, I think people could pick up on. They're like, yeah, cool. These are the sorts of people I want to do business with. These are the sorts of people I want to be looking after my teeth. And yeah, I think people are really clever. They can tell if you're trying to look after them, and they can tell if you're trying to rip them off. So it's really easy. Do the right thing by people, and 999 times out of 1,000, they're going to be happy. They're going to come back. They're going to tell their friends and family.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think the best compliment I got last week when I was
Mm-hmm.
speaking in New York was somebody came up and said, "You are so authentic," and I really
100%.
appreciate that. And so to be able to translate that through the website and interactions with the
Totally.
patients, I think it creates this ecosystem. And
Totally.
AI wasn't as prevalent 12 months ago as it is today, right? But people
Yeah.
are seeking real, right? They're
Oh,
seeking
more than ever,
connection.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Um, so this is fascinating, man. You had the success, you built it,
Mm-hmm.
you grew it, and did you have the belief that once you got to the liquidity event that all your problems would be solved and like things were going to be good?
Yeah, look, so I think we all do to a certain extent. So my decision to sell came on very quickly. Like, I was really, really enjoying it until I wasn't. And all of a sudden, the cost is enormous, right? Like, the cost is enormous as you're doing it, the personal cost, because you're investing so much of yourself into it, right? And your heart is on the line. And all of a sudden, I just stopped enjoying it. And I got really granular with it of like, why do you do anything? And I wrote a list of, you do things because it's good for you, like eating vegetables. You do things because you enjoy it. You do things as a gift to others. And I couldn't tick anything on it. So that's kind of what brought it about. So was I prepared for the sale? Look, it's interesting. I went against everything that you're supposed to do. Like, I didn't have anything to exit to. So I didn't know what was on the other side. And I knew I didn't know what was on the other side, which is what they tell you you're supposed to know before you do it, right? The other thing was, by the end of it, I couldn't wait to get out. When I was ready to go, I was so ready to go. And so I wasn't just sort of like marching towards the exit. I was like running full throttle and hurling myself out the door with no idea what to do on the other side, So I didn't have a
Why?
plan.
Why
I
were
just
you
wanted to get,
so set on getting out? Like,
I
did you
just,
get an
the joy
unsolicited
that,
offer? Like, this is
no, no, no,
fascinating
no.
for
Look,
me.
yeah, no, cool. So basically, I was really enjoying it, and last year was a really rough year, and it just sapped the joy out of it. Like, we had a couple of rogue team members, and the whole thing just stopped being fun. Like, all of a sudden, it was just like, this is now just hard work. This is now just a slog. So beforehand, the joy level was super high, but there was the cost there too. But the joy, because it was, it was always just a bit more, right? And then when you lose that joy, all you're left with is the cost. And I'm like, this is taking an enormous cost to me, Like, if there's no joy here, then it's just not worth doing, So that sort of, and I realized when I decided I wanted to be done with it, it was like I couldn't wait to be done, So it was 81 days between me emailing my accountant to say, hey, I think I want to sell, and the sale date. So in between that time, we sourced buyers. Yeah, I know, I can see them look in your face. Yeah, that's like,
What?
yeah,
Less
that's
than three
crazy
months?
fast. 100%. And I didn't have anyone on the hook, no buyers. In that time, I sourced the buyers myself. They flew in, showed them through information memorandum, negotiated, non-binding indicative offer. They've got to do their due diligence, the whole lot, and then to sales. Yeah, 81 days. So that's warp speed, right? And I was pushing it. I wanted it to be faster. I just was done with it. I just wanted to get on with my life. And yeah, hence, the find out what's next, the name of your podcast there, So, but I knew that I realized I didn't want, the next decade. I kind of cast my mind forward, and I realized I didn't. The next decade, I didn't want it to keep going like it was, basically, And I was like, I think I'm ready for. It wasn't part of my plans. I thought I'd be doing it for another 20 years. I'm only 42. I sold at 41, and I just, but it was compellingly the right thing to do. As soon as I realized it was right, there was no umming and ahhing. It's like, this has got to happen. Let's do it.
So the first buyer closed?
Yeah. Yep. So I had four. I knew who they were, like, so all large corp, like private equity backed firms. So I had them all come through. I had four of them come through. One of them was in a bad, they were just like, they just merged with another and they said, look, we really like it, but it's going to take us several months to get an offer in. I said, oh, it's going to be gone by then. So three others all put in offers. And yeah, like the one I negotiated, the one that I thought was going to be the best set of hands to look after it, take it over. And yeah, it closed. That was it. So yeah, that was,
Did you pick on highest price?
no, I actually didn't. No. So I ended up, they were all very closely banded. So there was not, they're all within 5% of each other. But no, I didn't. There was actually one that was higher that I didn't take. And I just, I didn't feel they were the right people to take it over there. And I think I would have got I knew the team wouldn't be thrilled with that. And you've got to think for yourself as an owner, like I can't make the decision just based on the team. But at the same time there, it wasn't an enormous amount of difference. I mean, it's still a lot of money, right? Like all this, it's not a tiny amount of money, like it's a, it's not, pocket change, but I went with the ones as well that I thought were going to get it across the line. And also I knew they could close deals, right? So it's one thing to get the number and the offer, but then it's like, can you get to settlement? And the group I went with, I knew that they could get to settlement. I knew that they were going to be ones that had the proven track record of doing that. So ultimately, until the money hits your bank, it's not worth anything. And I knew that, so I didn't take the top offer, but the group I went with, I was very happy to sell to them. And I thought they were the best group. And as I said, I had the confidence in them that they were going to be able to close the deal.
So clean deal. So walk out day one, no earn out, no
Correct.
obligations.
Yep, that's right. So it was walk in, walk out. And I made that really clear when I sold to say, look, yeah, I don't want to, I sort of said to them, I said, look, because I'd shown them a video, right, of like how the practice used to look and how it was at the end. And I said, the type of person who can do this is not the type of person you want sticking around either. Like you want me gone. You want clean air. You want to be able to, start things like your way. You don't want the big guy still there. So I said, I don't want to be here and you don't want me here either. And my billings as a dentist are only 0.6% of the revenue. So it was a rounding error. They didn't, the business didn't rely on me. It was a turnkey solution. So I made that really clear. I was, I'm someone who's either all in or all out. I don't like to kind of be half pregnant, right? So I was like, look, when I sell, that's it. It's yours. Run it however you want. But I'm not sticking around. And all offers needed to be subject to that, basically. So that I made that clear from the start.
So the wire hits, or did you get a check? I'm silly. I get checks.
The white. So we got like that. It landed in the bank account. So all day that day, I was at a course and I was actually, you're checking your bank account like constantly there. But it was that evening that it landed, and I actually called them up to check. It was, yeah, Michael, we've just, it's a lot of money. It's a bit harder to, it's not just, they can't just transfer it in one, So, but I was having a burger into my street. So I had like mayonnaise dripping down my hands. I was there with my wife and then, like checking. And I was like, there it is. Like that's it. It's done, So yeah, it was quite funny. Literally, the mayo running down my hands with this big beast of a burger and like checking the account on my phone and being like, yep, it landed, it's done. So that's a pretty cool feeling.
You're eating a burger and you just got more money than you've ever had and you're celebrating with a burger.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm a man of simple pleasures. So I'm a simple guy, Jerome. So that was, the burger was where we're at. But it was, I had literally, mayonnaise and sauce running down my hand when,
was it Wagyu? Was it Australian Wagyu?
No, I'm trying to think now. What was it? I'm not even sure. I think it was a beef burger of some sort, but it wasn't like a fancy burger. It was just like it was a nice burger, right? But it wasn't, it wasn't crazy silly. It was just like I just needed a bite to eat with my wife, so we went there. I think we'd just been at our daughter's school for something, and then it just happened to be the place where we were when I think we had a nicer dinner after that. But that was when the money hits the account. That's what I was doing.
How'd you feel?
Good, relieved. Like it's interesting, right? So there's a moment in Shawshank Redemption when Andy Dufresne, when he gets out of that tunnel and he just kind of like throws his arms in the air and it's raining and he's like, "I've done it." I felt like that, right? Like it felt like I'd escaped. It felt like I'd just threaded the needle, and I felt pretty euphoric, to be honest. So it's a pretty amazing feeling. When it actually lands and you go, "I did it!" Like that's it. Like I'm out. So it's definitely it's a pretty amazing feeling, you know. Like I think when you see the first offer came through, that was even more surreal. So because you work so hard at something and then, you know, you put it out,
Mm.
and then when you see the first offer comes through and you're like, because you think it's worth something, right? But you're not
Yeah.
sure until someone, and then when you see that, I remember just having to go for a walk and being like, wow, like this is now real, you know, like someone is paying me money for this thing, you know. And then there were two more offers to come after that as well. But just that first one, which kind of sets the baseline for like where it's going to be at. And it's like, you know, like this is happening, you know, and it's, you know, they're not trying to lowball, they're not trying to, you know, come in at unders. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow. Okay. And so how long did it last?
Yeah, look, a week, I think, a week, and then you know, like I think that there are massive challenges on the other side, you know, like that's the thing. And I'd spend a lot of time, you know, I'd kind of prepped for it, right? And I still fell in plenty of potholes, you know. So I was aware of the loss of identity that some people find. And thankfully, I avoided that. You know, I was proactive with having social circles to hang out with people. And I was also aware that a lot of people jump straight back into another business, you know. So I knew about all these things, right? All these things that you know about in your world because you're dealing with it every day. But I'd read a lot of white papers and things and listened to podcasts on what to avoid. And I also knew that people quite often lose the capital, right? So they get this money and then they do stupid things with it. So for me, it was like just whack it in a term deposit. Don't touch the thing for like 6, 12 months and figure out what you're going to do, but resist the urge to get, you know, to get restless and do something with it. So those things I avoided. But then, you know, it's interesting because you try so hard at something and then you try and figure out what you're going to do next, you know, and you kind of, it's really odd because I'm a pretty passionate guy. And it's funny, actually, it's really good timing we're doing this because literally, I reckon it's been the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've just started to get a bit of traction and start to go, I think I can see a path here now, you know, like I can kind of see it. Because before that, there was nothing. You throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. You're like throwing it and trying to figure out if it's, you're like, nah, that's not sticking. And you're so used to, I knew what I was doing every day before. I go to work, I knew exactly what I was doing and it works. And you chip away a bit further. Whereas now, I'll go try this. And you're like, I really thought I'd like that, but you don't. You go do this. Oh, no. Nah. And it sucks because you're like, man, what am I going to do? Like, I just, nothing seems to be resonating right. So it took a long time to try and figure out what to do next. And it's literally only been the last 3 weeks or so that things have started to resonate with me. And I've started to kind of put one foot in the other and start to see a bit of a path forward here and get a bit of traction with what the next steps might look like after 11 months of sort of, you're a bit like a cork in the ocean, you know, you're kind of at the mercy of the waves and things like that there. And I never kind of lost up and down. I kind of wasn't that far off, but I didn't have any clear direction or sense of what to do next. Whereas the last few weeks, it's just started to go. I think I'm kind of a bit clearer on the direction I might push out in and what that might look like. So, but yeah, it's a strange feeling to be in. That's for sure.
Wow. This is exciting. So the feeling lasted a week for you of,
Yes.
but I mean, you've been out for almost a year.
Yeah.
What did you do to deal with the feeling? Did you just
Yeah.
bury it? Like, how did you walk
So
through that?
it's really interesting, right? So some people, you know, again, trying to listen to what people who have been in similar situations have had happen before. Some find their life goes out of control a bit. So their health goes really bad, or they start drinking a lot, or drugs, or their relationships all get out of control. So I'm aware of all those things. Mine was the opposite. Mine went into control. So I was already a fit guy, but I started exercising 2, 3, 4 times a day, right? And I'd have arguments with Chat GPT about why I don't look like Superman yet. You know, it was like I just went and
Overtraining.
my diet got even more and more Spartan and more healthy. And so instead of kind of like breaking the shackles and going crazy, it actually went the opposite way where everything got bolted down. And I found the lack of achievement through work, suddenly I was getting that through exercise, right? And just, but not just a little bit, but it would be like multiple times a day to excess. And so that's kind of where I guess I kind of needed a sense of control, maybe, I guess, just sort of not having that sense of control in the broader life of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I think at least I knew if I go and exercise, one, I feel like I've achieved something, but two, I have a sense of control over that and a sense of pushing through hard things and actually arriving at the other end. So it's been an interesting kind of journey of doing, again, not for the first time in my life, but the opposite of what seems to happen to everyone else. Everyone else eats too much and, drinks too much, and I've actually kind of done the opposite of like, yeah, just so it's sort of, that's kind of where I pushed myself, I suppose. Yeah.
You've gone through this process yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and self-educated. What maybe been the most interesting concept you've come across or most helpful idea that you've picked up along the way that's made this bearable? Because you don't seem like you've blown it up. Like there doesn't seem to be
No,
a collateral damage, but you were
no,
worried about that. You were aware that it was a possibility,
100%.
but it seems like there may have been tools or tactics outside of having something like working out to take out
Yeah.
your stress to help you move through this.
I think we're talking off air about it. I'm a bit of a lone wolf in the sense of I tend to do things alone, So, but I think you need some sense of support or something. So for me, it was the books and the podcasts, excuse me, and things to try and get a sense of, but if not, you need a coach or you need a group to help you support you through those things because it is challenging. And I'm glad I at least had something to, to try and channel that energy and channel that direction and try and, I read a lot of books on, founders who'd exited and what they did next and how they approached it. So I tried to get a sense of learning from others, I guess. And like you said, I avoided those big things. I knew a lot of people's relationships blow up straight after because they get that sense of the arrival fallacy, right? They're like,
Yeah.
okay, I've sold now. All my worries should go away. And they're like, I'm still sad. Why is that? And they're like, oh, hang on. It's my relationship with my wife or something. So I'd heard and read about all these things and I was aware of them. And as I said, I was able to avoid a few of those. But I still fell into other pitfalls and things, and it's been look, it's I'm so happy that I sold. Don't get me wrong, but there's definitely challenges there that you face, and I think that you need to find something you can lean against to help you through that and help you plot your path forward because it's not easy to navigate. So I think to those listening, you need something. You need a coach, you need a mentor, you need a group of other people and colleagues doing it. You need something that you can kind of bounce ideas off of that is in a similar situation, or has the benefit of having done it before. Definitely.
It's fascinating that as a lone wolf to hear you say that,
Mm.
it warms my soul because I think specifically for men, so often we
Yeah.
decide that we're going to do it on our own by ourselves. I'm really smart, I'm really successful, I can figure it out. It can't be that complicated. And oh, it's
Yep.
just feelings, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
minimize it and then you actually get in it and you're in the quicksand, you're in the mud, and you're like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I can force it. I can do it. I can.
Totally.
Sometimes the forcing it just puts you deeper. And if you don't have something to be your muse, something to investigate, explore, the human body's like one of the most complicated things to move through, right? Um,
Yeah.
but you're working on that. You're sculpting. You're creating. But to hear you say that is very, very affirming for me because I think what
Mm.
we do is unique. It's something that very few people in the world can do, and I think
Totally.
it doesn't force somebody to say I couldn't do this on
Yeah.
my own. It's
Yep.
I want to do this more efficiently. I don't want to
100%.
try to connect all the dots and figure everything out. We
Yeah.
were doing a credibility piece, and they're like, "Well, how many conversations have you guys had with founders?" And it was like, "Well, over
Yeah.
3,500." And they're like,
100%.
"Well, how much have you advised on transaction value?" And like, 2.5 billion is safe. And so it's
Yeah.
just like, do you have the actual expertise? Or
Totally.
is it just your opinion? Right. And it's like,
100%.
no, this is rooted in actual experience. Right. And so
Totally.
uh, for people who they're going through it or going through it for the first time. I really, really, really appreciate you saying that. And I never ask guests to do it, right? I watch a lot of hosts
Yeah,
who set up the guests
totally.
to say the thing that they want them to say so
Yep.
that they can use that to prove their point. And from the bottom of my heart, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you saying that, Michael. Um, so you did exit six, which is a liquidity event. Exit seven is the post exit portfolio. I heard you say something along the lines of just put it in deposit. So did you
Mhm.
really put it in a bank, or are you investing that in some way to
No,
create
look, that's
income?
probably we had some surplus cash that we did put in the bank initially. But basically, for starters, when I sold, I had a lot of loans to pay off, right? Like, you don't build a practice the size that we had because I bought the building it was located on as well. So you've got a lot of loans that you need to pay out basically, because if the bank doesn't have the asset anymore, they need the money, so you can't loan against an asset you don't own. So that was part of it there. But we own the building that the practice is located on. We own that, so we still own that. So we get paid
Nice.
rent from the new owners of the business. So that's one. So we've got a commercial property there, but yeah, there was some surplus funds that, yeah, initially it was just, let's just put it into into a term deposit, and just we can draw it down as we need to. But yeah, we didn't do anything crazy with it. It was just stay the course, don't do anything silly, don't get too restless, and throw it all away. So yeah, genuinely, that's what I did with the bit that was left over. It was like, yeah, let's just do the least risky thing possible for 6-12 months until we get a better idea, but make sure we don't, in a rush to try and optimize, try and do something silly.
That's very interesting.
Mm.
So what's the strategy going forward? Is it to deploy capital into a new company you own? Is it to
Yeah, so
like
it's a good question. My view is that you make money by concentration, right? So I made it through a dental practice, but you keep the money by diversifying, right? So dental practice ownership, it's a very narrow thing, right? But that's how I made my money. But you make it through that. But then when it comes to what do you do with it all, then you want to reduce risk, so you diversify it. So yeah, exchange traded funds, commercial property, cash, superannuation in Australia, which I think is it 401k in America, maybe the same thing. I'm not quite sure, but so that's basically it. So it's very conservative. It's very boring. Like I think I'm quite happy that my money is boring. I don't invest in crypto or anything like that. And those that do, happy days. Not interested here. So yeah, I just do boring things that I want to sleep at night, and I think the sleep at night factor is important. I think that I'd be surprised if I went back into business again. I kind of feel like I've climbed that Everest, and I'm not keen to do it again. So I still very much like business, but it just doesn't light a fire in me anymore, Jerome. So it's not something I want to jump back into to deploy capital in it again. I'm pretty happy having taken my chips off the table, to tell you the truth, and just sort of sitting it out for a bit. Yeah, that in terms of from a financial point of view, it's funny when I had the business. I'd check my bank account far too often, like several times a day, as the money would come in. And now it's nice because it's not nearly that often, and you check the business spreadsheets, all the time, right? And then now it's nice to not have that weighing on you anymore. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
wow, wow. Yeah, I think most people think work optional means one thing and they
Mm.
find out it's something very different. It's like, oh, I gotta do this and I gotta make more. And it's like, well, or don't.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I think that's exactly right. So I'd rather, I understand the risk reward premium, and I understand that if I did more risky things, yeah, cool, there's the possibility of making more money, but I want to sleep at night, and right now I've done well. At some point you kind of got to take your chips off the table and not keep doubling down. And, I've done the risky thing. Yep, cool, I've done that. But now it's a time to not double down and triple down and try and keep betting the farm on everything. I'd rather, yeah, I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I'm a simple guy. I like my burger seen in the street. So I'm happy just taking it pretty easy, and yeah, being boring with my capital allocation now, for sure.
with the mayonnaise dripping down the
That's right.
finger, hand, and the arm. So
Totally.
This is interesting. I've never asked anybody this question on the show, but I think you'll
Cool.
be able to handle it. What are you
Yep.
optimizing for now? I think before it was money,
Cool.
growth. What are you
Yeah.
optimizing for now?
Love that question. I think like a sense of fulfillment, a sense of like resting my head on the pillow at night and feeling like that was a good day. So I think it's pretty simple stuff. Like I think that's enough, right? Like I think that I've it's really interesting you asked that question, Jerome, because one of the things I like to do is like to think in life, it's like what things have I reached the peak of in my life and what things is the peak still to come. So I think about the number of friends I've got. I've probably peaked back at university, but hopefully the depth of friendships, the peak is still to come. And you go, my level of elite fitness is probably past me, but hopefully, my enjoyment of fitness is still to come. And my level of debt, I hope that's peaked, but hopefully net wealth, the peak is still to come. So it's really interesting of like that thing of what are you optimizing for. But I think I'm happy, it's that thing of like you're trying to get, complexity or simplicity. And this stage, I'm pretty happy with simplicity, like I just want a simple life, rest my head on the pillow at night and feeling like that was a good day, like that was a good day. And I don't need a whole lot in my day for it to be a good day. Like it's just simple things, like read a bit, spend some time with my wife and daughter, exercise, catch up with a friend or coffee fit into the street or something like that. Like that's enough for me now. And I guess, yeah, probably just find that other meaningful little, like the hard, interesting, meaningful project to pursue as well, which I'm getting closer to as well. So to give me that direction and yeah, that's enough.
Wow. Wow. So was the celebration simply a dinner, or is there a car? Is there a watch? Is there some kind of trophy to commemorate the thing?
Do you know what? It's interesting, right? Like the most expensive thing I bought after selling was a trampoline for my daughter. Like we bought the absolute best trampoline you can possibly get. It's like $3,000 or $3,500, but it's like state of the art. It's like so that's like I know I'm pretty boring, hey, but like I'm just having said that we bought a place by the beach the year before, so that's kind of like my thing, right? So I think we kind of got the nice thing before we got the payoff almost. So like I like the beach. It's my happy place. I kind of always found every time something was on my mind, I'd always work on the B. So it was like you work on your brain, you go read a book, you work on your business, you work on your bank balance, you work on your body. But they're all like things you'd measure. Whereas at the beach, you can't measure how good your day was at the beach. So for me, it's where I'm happiest. So we bought a place by the beach, which I really love spending time with. It's been really lovely for our family. That was a bit before the sale, but I think that's kind of almost like, if it wasn't going to be before, it was certainly, yeah, that would have been the thing. But strictly speaking, post sale, yeah, I bought a trampoline for my daughter. But no, I haven't gone on any around the world trips or anything like that there. I think, yeah, I think I must be pretty boring. I don't know, but like I just like I've bought a lot of books from Amazon, if that counts. I like to read and things, but no, I think nothing of any great note. But if something takes my fancy, I'm happy to. But like I like my life, I like what I'm doing. Yeah, simple guy, simple tastes, and I think yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Keep it easy. Keep it
Hundred
simple. I
percent,
don't think most people understand what enough is, but I think you figured
totally.
you out you're enough and you're
Yeah,
playing that game.
totally. I think the enough thing
Eh,
is super big. Yeah, exactly right. I completely agree. Is like knowing when enough is enough, and yeah, I'm very content with that. Of like, I'm not trying to optimize for that. Of the disease of more, always needing more. I kind of like the idea of happiness by subtraction. It's like sort of thinking what do I need to add to my life to be happy? It's like what are the things I don't like and get rid of that. Be it the gardening or a relationship that's not serving you or something like that. Sometimes getting rid of something actually makes you happier than as soon as I get a pool, as soon as I get the car, as soon as I get this, it's actually getting rid of the thing that's not bringing you happiness.
yeah, like the business.
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you said it. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, at the end, that was exactly right, Jerome. Many a true word is said in jest, but absolutely, at the end, that was the thing that was not bringing me joy. It was, yeah, bringing me, sleepless nights and things, and it was just, yeah, the cost was huge, and yeah, so yeah, it was time to get rid of it.
Man, this has been such a joy, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to share your story and your perspective. Most people I encounter they are not where you are mentally. They are trying to figure out, well, what else can I do to prove? And what else do I need to get in order to be?
Mm.
And you're like, no, I am.
Yeah,
And I'm going to do, and I already have. And so, as long as those things are true, I think you can be
totally.
very uh, settled and be at peace in the space that you are and live that life that is unassuming and enjoy
Totally.
the freedom that comes with the simplicity. We've covered a ton of ground, Michael,
Yeah.
today. What's the one thing you want the listeners to take away from the episode?
I think if you're going through this, like persist, like just keep, I found it was certainly challenging for me, right? And you kind of, you feel like you're trying to figure it all out, but it has been odd the last little bit. All of a sudden things just seem to click. So if you're feeling, it's tricky because in business, you've got your direction, you've got your clear direction, you know what's next, you know what to do next. And then when you sell, you don't have direction, but I think you got to keep working at it, right? And you just got to kind of keep trying to get a bit of structure and keep working towards whatever it is. And even if you're not sure, just keep trying, and I think that things will land, but just don't make rash decisions, don't do silly things, don't bet big, just let things settle a bit while you figure it all out. And I think with time you get a bit of clarity and things start to stick.
Things start to stick. Just persist through it. Man,
Yep.
Finding Nemo, Dory says just keep swimming.
That's
And
it. Yeah, just keep swimming. Absolutely.
I
No, very much so. That's it.
think it's appropriate for where you are in the world and the lesson that you
Absolutely.
just gave us. This has been phenomenal. So I'll wrap it here, man. To
Sure.
our listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.